Good morning, everyone. This is the video that talks about how to use order of operations with fractions. So let's get started. Okay, first example. 6 over 11 times 4 over 8 minus 4 over 8 divided by 4 over 8. All right, so for this one, what we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and write PEMDAS out here to the side so we have it for reference. Okay. And just to remind you, PEMDAS stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And remember, multiplication and division are done from left to right, and addition, subtraction are done from left to right. I'm going to change my pen color here because I don't like red. It's like I'm giving somebody a grade and there's nothing even to grade. All right, let's use green. Okay, all right, so what we want to do here is we want to identify which terms we're going to combine first. So we have multiplication, subtraction, and division. And we can see on PEMDAS that multiplication and division come first from left to right. So that means we are going to do this part first. Okay. So how you multiply fractions is you just multiply straight across. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So I'm going to do that in this step. 6 times 4 is 24. 11 times 8 is 88. If you have forgotten your multiplication facts, it's been a while since you've been in school, or maybe you just never quite got them back in school, please buy yourself some multiplication flashcards and go over them every day. It's really important and will help make this class significantly easier. Okay, so now that we've taken care of that multiplication, we're going to look at, now we have subtraction and division. And we can see from PEMDAS that division is next. So we're going to look at this portion next. Okay? Whenever you divide fractions, what you do is you take the second fraction, which is this, that's a really weird looking, yeah, you know what I mean though, which is this 4 over 8, and you flip it. So flip this one. I'm going to go ahead and change my color here. I'm going to be using a lot of colors today, so I'm just going to leave that down. All right, so we're going to flip that one. So what that's going to give us is 24 over 88 minus 4 over 8. That division sign changes to a multiplication once you flip that second sign. Flip that second fraction. So now we have the 4 over 8 from right there. The division became a multiplication because we flipped this second fraction. So we started with 4 over 8, but now we have 8 over 4. Okay. All right, so now we're going to multiply these two terms here. So our 24 over 88 isn't going to change, but we're going to multiply straight across. So 4 times 8 is 24. And then again, 8 times 4, nope, not 24, 32. I just talked about learning your multiplication facts, and there you go, I made a mistake. All right, 32 over 32. But we know that whenever you have a number over itself, it just becomes 1. So this gives us 24 over 88 minus 1. All right, so whenever you have a minus, whenever you're trying to subtract two fractions, they have to have the same denominator. But here, 24 has a denominator of 88, and technically 1 has a denominator of 1. A lot of times whenever we have a whole number, we do not write the denominator 1 under it because it's understood, but it's always there. So I'm going to do a little example over here to explain. So if you have 5, that is the same thing as 5 over 1. And that's because think about 5 divided by 1. 5 divided by 1 is 5. So here, minus 1 is the same thing as minus 1 divided by 1. So that way we can see the denominator. So we need to make these denominators match. So one way to do that, I'm going to show you two different ways to do it, but one of the ways to do it is just multiply the two denominators together and then put the factor that you multiplied by in the numerator. If that sounds like mumbo jumbo to you, sorry, not to me, to you, don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so here we can multiply 88 times 1. All right, so 24 over 88. In order, what can we multiply by 88 to get 88? Just 1, right? 88 times 1 is 88. So I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 1. What do we need to multiply 1 by to get 88? 88. So that means I'm going to take the numerator and multiply it by 88 and the denominator and multiply it by 88. All right. So once I do that multiplication, we have the following subtraction. And at this point, since we have matching denominators, we can just subtract the numerators. So 24 minus 88 is negative 64 over 88. But this is not in simplest form. We can reduce it. The easiest way to reduce is if you see they're both even numbers, is just start dividing by 2 until you can't anymore. So negative 64 divided by 2 is negative 32. 88 divided by 2 is 44. As you can see here, we have two even numbers again, so I'm going to divide by 2 again. Negative 32 divided by 2 is negative 16. 44 divided by 2 is 22. Even numbers again, I'm going to keep dividing. Negative 16 divided by 2 becomes negative 8. 22 divided by 2 becomes, not that, one moment. No. Man, I'm having much luck with this as I did with the smartboard yesterday. Okay. Let me scroll back down to where we were. There we go. Okay. That's supposed to be 11, y'all. I will get an 11 written at some point. There we go. All right. So now you can see 11's a prime number, and and 8 does not share any factors with 11 other than 1. So we're done reducing. So our final answer is negative 8 over 11. Ah, my pen is not wanting to work. I'm just trying to circle it and it's not working. There we go. Let's look at example 2. So for this one, we can either use the method above to find a common denominator between 3 and 6, which was basically saying, okay, I'm going to multiply this fraction, top and bottom, by the denominator of the other fraction, which is 6. And I'm going to multiply this fraction by the denominator over here, which is 3. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, and this is particularly helpful with smaller denominators, you can start writing your multiplication facts of each denominator over here and find the lowest one that matches. So for example, 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12. Ran out of room on my pad, that's okay. My writing pad ran out of room, so. All right, and then here, 6, 12, 18. Well, we can see right away that we have a 6 here and a 6 here, so that is our lowest common denominator. So what we want to do, this second fraction already has 6 as a denominator, so we're good to go there. But this 2/3, we need to make that denominator 6. So what we do is we ask ourselves, 3 times what gives 6? Well, 3 times 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 2. So then that gives us 4/6 minus 1/6. Now that these have the same denominator, we can go ahead and subtract them. 4 minus 1 is 3 over 6. All right, the thing I want to remind everybody, it's very tempting whenever subtracting or adding fractions to subtract and add the denominator as well as the numerator, but do not do that. Whenever you're adding and subtracting fractions, you only add or subtract the numerator, which is that top number. So now that we've taken care of the parentheses, we can go ahead and do this subtraction. 4/6 minus 3/6. So we have 4 minus 3 is 1, and we leave the denominator the same. And that cannot be reduced. So voila, we are done. All right, let's do another one. All right, what if we have 4 times 1/2 plus 2 over 8 divided by 1/2. All right, and PEMDAS for reference. All right, so we have parentheses, so we want to start inside the parentheses, but inside of our parentheses, we also have a plus and a division, so we have to decide which one to do first. All right, and so now we can see here that we should do the division first, so I'm going to focus on this. For multiplication and division of fractions, you do not have to have a common denominator, so we don't have to mess with that at this point. All right, but since it is division, remember in the previous problem, whenever you divide two fractions, you have to change the sign to a multiplication sign and flip the second fraction. So this can be rewritten as 2/8 times 2 over 1. So now since it is a multiplication problem, we can multiply straight across in numerator and denominator. So 2 times 2 is 4. 8 times 1 is 8. Okay. So now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a common denominator, and I'm going to use the method that we used in the first example. So I'm just going to multiply my two denominators together. But what I multiply the bottom by, I have to multiply the top by. So here, I'm going to multiply the 2 by the 8, so I also have to multiply the 1 by the 8. So this fraction becomes 1 times 8 over 2 times 8. And here, I'm going to multiply this 8 by 2, so I also have to multiply the 4 by 2. So we have 4 times 2 all over 8 times 2. All right, so then that leaves us 4 times 8 over 16 plus 8 over 16. So as you can see here, we now have common denominators, so we can add our numerators, which gives us 4 times 16 over 16. And as we know, when a number is divided by itself, it becomes 1. So we have 4 times 1, which is 4. There we go. I squeezed it in there, which is 4. All right. Example 4. We want to take 1/2 times 4/5 plus 2/3 times 9. 2/3 times 9/5. All right, and as always. Okay. All right, so here, what we want to do is we have two things we need to multiply together first, because multiplication comes first. So we can just multiply straight across. Whoa, what did I do? I don't know. Okay, one moment, y'all. I'm going to rewrite what I just erased somehow. 4/5, 2/3, and then they're added. Okay, so 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. And then for this second multiplication problem here, 2 times 9 is 18. 3 times 5 is 15. All right, so in order to add these, we have to have a common denominator. We can use either method we want, but I'm going to use the one where I just multiply them together since they're larger. The method where you write out the multiplication facts truly does work better when they're, I would say when the denominator is under 9. If both denominators are under 9, then usually writing out the multiplication facts is the better method. If they're more than 9, generally just doing the multiplying them together is better. Okay, so I need to multiply this fraction by 15. So 4 times 15 all over 10 times 15. And I need to multiply this second fraction by 10. So I have 18 times 10 all over 15 times 10. All right. And so I did use my calculator for this, y'all. So I would fully be expecting for you guys to use your calculator too. That's completely fine. All right, we have 60 over 150 plus 180 over 150. So now that we have a common denominator, we can go ahead and add them together. Oh, my bad. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, which is 240 over 150. And now, since they're both even, let me put an equals here. Now that they're both even, I'm going to start dividing by 2. 120 over 75. All right, so this is where you're like, oh man, they're not both even. How do I reduce now? All right, so the next thing you want to look for after if it's even, you want to ask yourself, is it divisible by 5? That's the next easiest thing to do. And both of these are divisible by 5. And we know that because this ends in a 0 and this ends in a 5. A number that is divisible by 5 will always end in a 0 or a 5. So I'm going to divide both of those by 5, which gives me 24 over 15. All right, so now both of these are... No, I'm sorry, these both are not even. One's even, one's odd. And they're not divisible by 5 because we know 24 is not divisible by 5. So what do we do at this point? At this point, your easiest method is going to be to say, all right, what multiplies together to give me 24? 8 times 3 is 24. And what multiplies together to give me 15? 5 times 3. We have a 3 in the top and a 3 in the bottom, so those can cancel like that. Or let me back up. If you guys haven't seen it before, I don't want that to be confusing. Okay. This can be written as 8 over 5 times 3 over 3. As we said before, any number divided by itself is always 1. That's why it cancels, like I mentioned a minute ago. So 8 over 5 times 1 is, I'm going to have to scroll down because I ran out of room. 8 over 5 times 1 is just equal to 8 over 5. All right, and hopefully that will be enough examples to help you. If you're still having issues, please make sure and let me know. I'm always here to help. Have a good rest of your day.